infer, inferable, infer, inferable, inference, inferential, inferentially, inferior, inferiorly, inferiority, inferiority complex, infernality, infernally, infernal machine, infertile, infertility, infestation, infested, infidel, infidelity, infilter, infiltrate, infiltration, infiltrative, infinite, infinitely, the infinite being, infiniteness, infinitesimal, infinitesimally, infinitively, infinitude, infinity, infirm, infirmness, infirmly, infirmary, infirmity, infix, inflame, inflamer, inflamingly, inflammable, inflammability, inflammableness, inflammably, inflammation, inflammatory, inflate, inflatable, inflator, inflator, inflation, inflationary, inflationist. Whew, had to burp. That was a juice burp. Inflatable, inflator, inflator, inflation, inflationary, inflationist, inflect, inflective, inflection, inflectional, inflection, inflectional, inflexible, inflexibleness, inflexibly, inflexibility, inflict, inflictor, inflictor, inflictive, infliction, inflorescence, inflorescent, inflow, influence, influencer, influential, influentially, influenza, um, influenzal, influx, enfold, enfold, enfolder, inform, informingly, informal, informally, informality, informant, information, informational, informative, informatively, informer, infraction, infrangible, infrangibility, infrangibleness, infrangibly, infrared, infrastructure, infrequent, infrequently, infrequency, infrequence, infringe, infringe on or upon, infringement, infringer, infuriate, infuriately, infuriation, infuser, infusible, infusibility, infusibleness, infusion, infusorian, ingenious, ingeniously, ingenuousness, ingeni, ingenuity, ingenuous, ingenuously, ingenuousness, ingest, ingestion, ingested, nook, Inglewood, inglorious, ingloriousness, ingloriously, ingoing, ingot, inget, engraft, engrafter, ingrained, ingrate, ingratiate, ingratiatingly, ingratiate, ingratiation, ingratitude, ingredient, ingress, ingressive, ingression, ingrowing, ingrown, ingenual, engulf, inhabitability, inhabitation, inhabitant, inhabiter, inhalant, inhalation, inhaler, inharmonic, inharmonical, inharmonious, inharmoniously, inharmoniousness, inherent, inherency, inherently, inheritor, inheritable, inheritability, inheritableness, inheritably, inheritance tax, inhibitable, inhibition, inhibitory, inhibitive, inhospitable, inhospitableness, inhospitably, inhospitality, inhumanly, inhumanist, inhumanely, inhumanity, inimical, inimically, inimitable, inimitability, inimitably, iniquitous, iniquitously, iniquitousness, iniquity, initially, initial teaching alphabet, initiate, initiator, initiation, initiative, initiatory, inject, injection, injector, injudicious, injudiciously, injudiciousness, injunction, injure, injurious, injure, injuriously, injuriousness, injury, injustice, ink like, inkhorn, inkland, inkstand, inkwell, inky, inkiness, inlaid, inland, inlaw, inlay, inlayer, inlet, in loco parentis, inliumate, in medias in medias res, in momerin, memoriam, in most, in innards, innately, innatness, innerly, innerness, innerman, inner Mongolia, innermost, inning, innkeeper, innocence, innocent, innocency, innocently, iniquous, innocuous, innocuously, innocuousness, innominate, bone, innominate, bone, and innovate, innovative, innovator, innovation, innovational, innoxious, innuendo, innumerable, innumerableness, innumerably, inoculate, inoculable, inoculation, inoculative, inoculator, inoffensive, inoffensively, inoffensiveness, inoperable, inoperative, inoperativeness, inopportune, inopportunely, inopportunist, inordinate, inordinacy, inordinateness, inordinately, inordinately, inorganic, inorganically, in perpetuum, input, inquest, inquiet, inquietude, inquire, inquire after, inquire for, inquire, inquiringly, inquiry, inquisition, inquisitive, inquisitively, inquisitiveness, inquisitional, inquisitor, inquisitorial, inquisitorially, inquisitorialness, Henri, INRI, inroad, inrushing, inrushing, INS, insane, the insane, insanely, insaneness, insanitary, insanitariness, insanity, insatiable, insatiability, insatiableness, insatiably, insatiateness, inscribe, inscribable, inscriber, inscription, inscriptive, inscriptional, inscrutable, inscrutability, inscrutableness, inscrutably, insecticide, insecticidal, insectivorous, insectivore, insecurely, insecureness, insecurity, inseminate, insemination, insensate, insensately, insensateness, insensible, insensible, insensibility, insensibleness, insensibly, insensitive, insensitivity, insensitiveness, insentient, insentience, inseparable, inseparability, inseparableness, inseparably, insertion, insert, insure, insure of, inside of, insider, insidious, insidiously, insidiousness, insight, insignia, insignificant, insignificance, insignificancy, insignificantly, insincere, insincerely, insincerity, insinuate, insinuatingly, insinuative, insinuator, insinuation, insipid, insipidly, insipidness, insipidity, insist, insister, insistence, insistence, insistency, in situ, ensnare, insobriety, insofar, insofar, insol, insolent, insolence, insolently, insoluble, insolubility, insolubleness, insolvable, insolvent, insolvency, insomnia, insomniac, insomnious, insomuch, insomuch, insociant, insocience, insociently, inspect, inspection, inspector, inspectoral, inspectorial, inspectorship, inspiration, inspirational, inspirationally, inspire, inspirable, inspire, inspiringly, inspirit, inspiritingly, inspissate, inspicitor, inspissation, instability, unstable, install, installation, installer, installment, installment, plan, instance. Whoo! Stretch right quick. For instance, instant, on the instant, instantaneously, instantaneous, instantaneousness, instantaneously, instanter, instantly, instate, instatement, instead of, instep, instigate, instigation, instigative, instigator, instill, instiller, installation, instillment, instinct, instinctive, instinctively, instinctual, institute, institutor, institutor, institution, institutional, institutionally, institutionalize, instruct, instruction, instructional, instructive, instructively, instructiveness, instructor, instructorship, instructress, instrument, instrumentally, instrumentalist, instrumentality, instrumentation, instrument panel or board, insubordinately, insubordination, insubstantiality, insufferableness, insufficiently, insufficiency, insularism, insulation, insulator, insulter, insultingly, insuperability, insuperableness, insuperably, insupportableness, insupportably, insurability, insurance policy, insurmountable, insurmountability, insurrectionary, insurrectionist, insusceptibility, intactness, intaglio, intangibility, intangibleness, intangibly, integrality, integral calculus, integration, integrator, integrity, interhuman, intellectuality, intellectualness, intellectualism, intellectualistic, intelligence quotient, intelligence test, IQ, intelligently, intelligentsia, intelligibility, intelligibleness, intelligibly, interperance, interperately, interperateness, intendency, intenseness, intensely, intensify, intensification, intensifier, intensity, intensively, intensiveness, to all intents and purpose, intently, intentness, intentionally, interaction, interactive, inter alia, interbreed, intercalary, interculation, intercede, interceder, intercellular, intercept, interception, interceptor, intercession, intercessional, intercessory, intercessor, interchange, interchanger, interchangeable, interchangeability, interchangeableness, interchangeably, intercollegiate, intercom, intercommunicate, intercommunication, intercommunicative, interconnection, intercostally, intercourse, sexual intercourse, interdenominational, interdependence, interdependency, interdependent, interdependently, interdiction, interdictor, interdictory, interdictive, interest, in the interest of, interested, interestedly, interestedness, interestingly, interestingness, interfere with, interfere, interferingly, interference, interfold, interfuse, interfusion, interim, interiorly, interior decoration, interject, interjector, interjectionally, interlace, interlacement, interlarment, interlay, interleaf, interline, interlinear, interlineal, interlining, interlink, interlocking, directorates, interlocker, interlocutor, interlocutory, interloper, interlude, intermarry, intermarriage, intermediary, intermediately, intermediateness, intermezzo, interminably, intermingle, intermission, intermitter, intermittingly, intermittence, intermittency, intermittently, intermix, intermixture, internship, internally, internality, internal combustion engine, internalization, internal medicine, internal revenue, internationality, international dateline, internationalism, internationalist, internationalization, international phonetic alphabet, internecine, interpellant, interpellation, interpenetration, interpretive, interpenetrative, interpenetration, interphone, interplanetary, interplay, interpole, interpolate, interpolation, interpolative, interpolator, interpose, interposer, interposingly, interposition, interposal, interpret, interpretable, interpretability, interpretative, interpretation, interpretational, interpreter, interracial, interregnum, interrelated, interrelation, interrelationship, interrogate. Interrogatingly, interrogator, interrogational, interrogation mark or point, interrogatively, interrogatory, interrogatorily, interrupt, interrupter, interruptive, interruption, interscholastic, intersect, intersection, intersperse, interspersion, interstate, interstellar, interstice, interstitially, intertwine, intertwinement, intertwiningly, intertwistingly, interurban, interval, at intervals, intervene, intervener, intervenient, intervention, interventionist, interviewer, interweave, interwoven, intestate, intestacy, intestinal, intestinally, intestine, small intestine, large intestine, enthrallment, intimacy, intimately, intimateness, intimidator, intimation, intimidate, intimidator, intimidation, entitle, intolerable, intolerability, intolerableness, intolerably, intolerance, intolerant, intolerant of, intolerantly, intone, intonation, intone, intoner, intoto, intoxicant, intoxicatingly, intoxicative, intoxicate, intoxication, intractable, intractability, intractableness, intractably, intradose, intramural, intramuscular, intransigent, intransigence, intransigency, intransitively, intransigently, intrastate, intravenous, entrencher, entrenchment, intrepidity, internal revenue, intricacy, intricately, intricateness, intriguer, intriguingly, intrinsically, intro, introduce, introducer, introducible, introduction, introductively, introductorily, introspection, introspectively, introspective, introversion, introversive, introvert, intrudingly, intrude, intrusion, intrusiveness, intrusively, intrust, intuitionally, intuitiveness, intuitively, inundate, inundation, inundator, inurement, invacuo, invade, invader, invalid, invalidism, invalid, invalidity, invalidity, invalidly, invalidate, invalidator, invalidation, invaluable, invaluableness, invaluably, invariableness, invariability, invariable, invariably, invasion, invasive, invective, invader, inveigle, inveigler, inveiglement, invent, inventable, invention. Let's see. Inventional, inventatively, inventiveness, inventor, inventory, inventorial, inventorially, inverness, inverness, cape, inverse, inversely, inversion, inversive, invert, inverter, invertebrate, invertible, invest, investor, investigate, investigable, investigative, investigatory, investigator, investigation, investiture, investment, inveterate, inveteracy, inveterately, invidiously, invidiousness, invigorate, invigoratingly, invigoration, invigorative, invigoratively, invigorator, invincible, invincibility, invincibleness, invincibly, inviolable, inviolability, inviolableness, inviolably, inviolate, inviolacy, inviolateness, inviolately, invisible, the invisible, invisibility, invisibleness, invisibly, invitation, invite, inviter, invitingly, invitingness, invocation, invocatory, invoice, invoke, invoker, involucre, involucral, involucral, involuntary, involuntarily, involuntariness, involuted, involutely, involution, involutional, involutionary, involve, involvement, involver, invulnerable, invulnerability, invulnerableness, invulnerably, inward, inwards, inwardly, inwardness, inweave, enwrap, enwreathe, enwrought, iodide, iodine, iodized, iodized salt, iodoform, ion, ionic, ion, iona, ionian, ionian sea, ionian sea, ionic, ionium, ionize, ionizer, ionization, ionosphere, iota, iou, ios, iowa, iowan, IPA, IPEC, IPCAC, Ipecacuanha, Ipecacuanha, Ephigenia, 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 Epsi Dixit, Epsi Dixit, pause, Epso facto, IQ, IR, Iranian, Iran, Iraq, Iraqi, irascible, irascibility, irascibleness, irascibly, irately, irateness, IRBM, intermediate range ballistic missile, ireful, irefulness, Ireland, Northern Ireland, iridescent, iridescently, iridium, iris, Irish, the Irish, Irishman, Irish woman, Irish Free State, Irish potato, Irish sea, Irish setter, Irish stew, Irish terror, Irish wolfhound, irksomely, irksomeness, Irkutsk, iron, have irons in the fire, iron out, strike while the iron is hot, iron like, iron age, ironbound, ironclad, iron curtain, iron hand, iron handed, ironical, ironically, ironicalness, ironing board, iron lung, ironmonger, ironmongery, iron pirate, pirates, ironside, iron lung, ironware, ironweed, ironwood, ironwork, ironworks, irony, Iroquoian, Iroquois, Five Nations, irradiance, irradiate, irradiation, irradiant, irradiator, irradiative, irrational, irrationality, irrationalness, irrationally, irreclaimable, irreclaimability, irreclaimableness, irreclaimably, irreconcilable, irreconcilability, irreconcilableness, irreconcilably, irrecoverable, irrecoverableness, irrecoverably, irredeemable, irredeemably, irredentism, irreducible, irreducibility, irreducibleness, irreducibly, irrefragility, irrefragibly, irrefutable, irrefutably, irrefutability, irregardless, irregular, irregularity, irrelevant, irrelevancy, irrelevantly, irreligionist, irreligiously, irreligiousness, irremediableness, irremediably, irremissible, irremovability, irremovably, irremovable, irreparability, irreparableness, irreparably, irreplaceable, irrepressible, irrepressibleness, irrepressibility, irrepressibly, irreproachability, irreproachableness, irreproachably, irreproachable, irresistible, irresistibility, irresistibleness, irresistibly, irresolution, irresoluteness, irresolutely, irrespective, irrespectively, irrespective of, irresponsible, irresponsibleness, irresponsibility, irresponsibly, irresponsive, irretrievable, irretrievability, irretrievableness, irretrievably, irreverence, irreverent, irreverently, irreversible, irreversibility, irreversibleness, irreversibly, irrevocable, irrevocability, irrevocableness, irrevocably, irrigable, irrigation, irrigational, irrigator, irritability, irritable, irritably, irritableness, irritant, irritate, irritative, irritatingly, irritator, irritation, eruption, eruptive, Washington Irving, Irvington, Isaac, Isabella one, is acoustic, is acoustic, Isagog, Isagogi, Isagogic, Isaiah Iscariot, Icamia, Ischemia, Ischemic, Ischium, Ischil, Isilt, Ishmael, Ishmaelite, Ishmaelitish, Ishtar, Isinglass, ISIS, Islam, Islamic, Islam, Islamite, Islamic, Islamitic, Islamize, Islamization, Island, Islander, Isle, Islet, Ism, Isn't, Isobar, Isobert, Isobaric, Isochronal, Isocronus, Isochronism, Isocline, Isoclinical, Isoclinic, Isogonic, Isogonic, Isolate, Isolable, Isolation, Isolator, Isolationist, Isolationism, Isode, Isomer, Isomerism, Isomeric, Isomerous, Isometrical, Isomorphic, Isomorphism, Isosceles, Isothermal, Isothermally, Isotonic, Isotope, Isotopic, Isotropic, Isotropis, Israeli, Israelite, Israelitish, Israelitic, essay, issuance, issuant, at issue, joint issue, take issue, issuable, issuer, Istanbul, Isthmium, Isthmian, Isthmus, Isthmus, Isthmian, Istic, Issel, It'll, It'll, Italia, Italic, Italicized, Italics, Italy, Italics, Itchiness, itemize, itemization, itemizer, iterate, iteration, iterative, Ithaca, iterancy, iternacy, iternerant, iternerantly, iternerary, iterneration, issues, itis, it's itself, itty, Ivan 3, Ivan 4, ivory, ivory like, Ivid or something like that, or Ived, Ivory Coast, Ivory Nut, Ivory Palm, Ivory Tower, Ivy, English Ivy, IWW, Iction, Ixel, Ixtal, Issel, or ER, Jewish calendar, Ization, Eyes, Ismar, Izzard. Alright, y'all, that's the iBars. You already know what it is. Subscribe. You already know. Be back in a moment. We'll take a little break, but we be back.